Just looking at one verse today, in verse 11 of Exodus 33. So we're going to talk some more about Moses meeting with God. It says, inside the tent of meeting, the Lord would speak to Moses face to face as one speaks to a friend. And afterward, Moses returned to the camp, but the young man who assisted him, Joshua, son of Nun, would remain behind in the tent of meeting. So this kind of contrasts how God spoke to Moses with how he oftentimes spoke to the other prophets. I mean, this talks about a face-to-face meeting as one speaks to a friend. It's interesting, Moses is a friend of God. That's an interesting way to put it in the Old Testament in this context. I love it. It's so interesting to me. Now, a couple people or different scholars think differently about this. Different commentators and Bible scholars. Some people see this very literally when it says face to face, that it is Christ that he's speaking with. Just like Jesus will appear to Joshua, just like Jesus comes to speak with Abraham in Genesis 18, that's what's happening with Moses. And very possibly so. We don't know for sure. Some scholars see it more as figurative language, as face-to-face, and it was a free-flowing conversation, relationship back and forth. I land a little bit more on taking Scripture literally wherever I can. I know there's a lot of symbolism and things. I'm teaching through the book of Isaiah right now with our Bible study group that meets on Wednesday nights. And there's a lot of symbolic language in there, like we just finished talking about Isaiah chapter 13, where it speaks about Babylon. And in part of it is talking about the literal city of Babylon. And in part of it is talking about Babylon as the idea of a world system, a world view, and how Babylon is talked about in the book of Revelation, but it's not the literal city of Babylon. So there is symbolic language in Scripture, and we have to understand and deal with that. But anytime I can take it literally, I want to. So I know God has spoken face to face in the form of God the Son, Jesus Christ, already in Scripture, and I know he's going to do it again. He speaks to Samson's parents. He appears in the fiery furnace with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. There's all kind of occasions in Scripture that this happens. So why not with Moses? If he speaks to Abraham, he speaks to Joshua. Why not to Moses in the same fashion? So I like to think that it is literally Christ that he sees and speaks with. Now the last part of this is really interesting to me. It says, but the young man who assisted him, Joshua, son of Nun, would remain behind in the tent of meeting. So this was an example to the entire nation, but it was a special example to Joshua. Because remember, through all these things that are happening, Joshua is being trained and led and groomed to be the next leader. It's going to pass to Joshua. And so Moses does this incredible job, and God does this incredible job of training Joshua to be ready. And we'll see him take over in the book of Joshua, and what an incredible leader he will be for the people. One of the godliest and best men that you find in all of the Old Testament is Joshua, son of Nun. But he was so taken aback by this that he would actually remain behind in the tent of meeting. And so it kind of leads me to think he was in on the conversation. Maybe he wasn't participating, but he was sitting and listening and watching. Can you imagine to be able to sit in on those conversations, what that had to do for this young man who would later in life become the leader of Israel himself, and he would take on the role of Moses and lead them into the promised land itself. He would see the fulfillment of the promise of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So I love that Joshua pops up in different places in the book of Exodus in important roles, and you're seeing him being trained to be this man that would lead. You guys have a good day.